This week's full moon in Leo is a cosmic catalyst, simultaneously igniting our hearts, awakening our inner child, and calling us into radical self-trust. Chaos may be swirling, but so are transformational breakthroughs, some that will come through release of patterns and pain points. Rebellious Aquarius will expand our perspective while keeping us detached from the emotional storm. As Pisces urges us to surrender and trust the flow, Venus and Mars are stirring up opposing deep emotions, and Uranus is shaking our foundation to the core right now. But through it all, our personal power remains. Let's crack the code and uncover the love, sovereignty, vision, and peace available to us in every single moment. Hey guys, so raise your hand if you're not really having the best time out here right now. These last 2 weeks since the new moon have really tested me in a lot of ways. Even writing this episode was kind of hard. But I'm doing it anyway in hopes that unraveling this chart will help with guidance and perspective. Over the last few days, we had the crossing of North Node and Neptune exacting at 28 degrees Pisces, and I don't know about you guys, but wow, that energy felt really personal, and it really pushed me back on the path of my nodal axis, even though I didn't even realize I had strayed from it. I thought I was in such alignment, it felt like it. But nope, the universe be like, door closed, proceed this way. And it pushed me away from a project that really felt heart-based. It forced me to step back and take a huge personal time out and investigate what I was doing and what my real motivations were behind the project itself. And with Mars retrograde in Cancer dragging on at this point, all there was to lean on was my raw vulnerability about it. It seems bravery and courage are in short supply right now. At the first sign of misalignment, I deflated like a balloon. But if there's anything to be learned in this pocket, it's that now is not the time to fall into the hole of self-loathing. Compassion for self and tolerance for the human experience is the name of the game. Now, we'll talk about this more in a bit, but we also had Venus move into Aries last week, and the planets are starting to arrange themselves for a powerful eclipse season coming this March. But forget about the math of it all for a second. From the feelings perspective, well, sadness, and probably some anger-coded sadness, seems to be unavoidable right now. The good news is there's huge opportunity here for healing our hearts and setting us up to align with bliss. So let's take a look at what is on the menu for this full moon and walk through it together. And listen, as we go, I'm with you in looking for the silver linings and the catharsis within this energy, because, well, I need to reach for it just as much as anyone else right now. So we have a packed chart this week, and I'm not totally sure I'm going to go through every single one of these aspects and placements, because that might turn into a monster of an episode. But that being said, our full moon happens in Leo, which hopefully will bring with it some courage and heart-based joy. But as with all full moons, it's opposed to the sun, which right now is still in Aquarius, and it's conjunct Mercury in Aquarius also. That sets up a T-square to Uranus, now direct in Taurus. So right off the bat, it seems that there will be some energetic tension that comes with this full moon. Along with that, we have a grand trine between Pluto and Uranus involving the South Node Virgo. Now that we've been in the Virgo-Pisces nodes for a few weeks, we'll definitely be talking more about that depth and what those energies are stirring up. Overall, though, this is a very powerful full moon chart. That grand trine is in a kite formation pointing to the North Node Pisces, which is lined up with Neptune. So if the energy feels tense to you, without even looking at the technical details of these placements, we can feel some relief in that this chart is literally pointing us towards that North Node Neptune healing portal that we've been talking about for weeks. Additionally, because yes, there is more, we have overlapping minor grand trine between Pluto, Venus, and Jupiter, and between Mars, Uranus, and Saturn. So basically all of the planets are getting in on the action and have something to say with this full moon. It's a lot of energy and it can feel scattered, but I think we can crack the code on some basic instructions and guidance within these placements and aspects, especially as they relate to the nodal axis. We're also going to take a closer look at Venus as she ingresses into Aries, where she will soon retrograde and eventually cross back into Pisces during eclipse season in March. You know, it's pretty rare for Mars and Venus retrogrades to occur so close together. Checks notes only about a week apart. And furthermore, the fact that their retrograde cycles are occurring in detriment signs where they already feel uncomfortable is part of the larger story at play between masculine and feminine energies right now. It really feels like this great divide between us has an intention for us to spend more time learning and feeling each other's energies so that we have more perspective and compassion and greater understanding for the polarity when we come out the other side of these transits. Because all of these themes play important roles in the energy story that will take us basically to Pluto retrograde and Uranus moving into Gemini in May. So long story short, what we learn from this full moon is potentially an early phase preview, setting us up for some of the energy themes that we may experience during the March eclipse season. So now, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's break some of this down. The full moon is at 24 Leo. Man, I fucking need some Leo energy in my life right now. As a North Node Leo myself, it feels right on time. We have the emo moon in the sign of the heart, inner child, joy, laughter, creativity. We'll get into that in a minute, but it definitely feels like some of the relief lives here, if we are able to go find it. Leo energy is also where we find our leadership and where the spotlight seems to find us. So pay attention to the themes in your life that get highlighted and illuminated with this full moon. I can promise whatever it is won't be an accident or coincidence. Rather, it's synchronicity at play. Now, leading up to this moment, we've been practicing alignment with our hearts. This moon is at a Venus degree, so part of that heart-based alignment that we're meant to shine and lead from is based in our feminine energies. First, as leaders within our own lives, and then, because it's their deacon, ultimately showcasing how to be courageous, heart-based leaders for the empowerment and protection of the collective. And of course, since it's a full moon, there will likely be some letting go required here around whatever is blocking us from connecting with our hearts and leading with Venus-based energies of peace, harmony, flow, balance, and beauty. Now, it's important to remember here that Leo may be leadership, but even more so, it's the sign of the inner child who lives in the hearts of all of us. There is so much rich opportunity here to do some healing work with our inner child energies. Now, that may sound cringy to some people, especially those who have built protective walls around their vulnerability. If you're not sure if you're one of those people, simply feel what comes up for you when I say inner child work. If it's tense, defensiveness, and not simplicity and joy, well, that's okay. But note, there is rich grounds of work to be done in that realm for you. This is where the timing of this moon is so important, because the current Mars retrograde in Cancer energy is helping us open that very door to the inner child. The walls of protection are down if you're willing to explore and not resist. I know for me, when my heart is really open, there is so much joy and laughter and bliss and play and alignment with my inner child, effortlessly. And the true underlying goal of this work is that we can connect with that childlike state of joy and innocence, whether or not that was your actual lived childhood experience. And unfortunately for many of us, there is pain and hurt in there too. But the more we work with this energy consciously and create a safe space for it, the more we open up space within us to connect with our natural joy and bliss. And that's why the inner child lives in Leo, because it's what lives inside of the hearts of every single one of us. So I really think this moment here with this moon is specifically designed to encourage and clear the way for deeper connection within our heart space. To remember the lightness and bliss that we have accessible within us at all times, no matter what exterior situations we're faced with. Now, I do have a meditation that I use to connect deeper with these energies, and if that's something you guys would be interested in, definitely leave me a comment below and I'll make sure to get that recorded and posted for you. Anyway, so on the surface, that definitely has a lot of potential. Like, yay, let's go open up more energy and space to play and experiment and do things we love simply for the joy of it. However, it's complicated. Because the full moon is in opposition to Sun and Mercury in Aquarius and forming a T-square to Uranus in Taurus, there's lots of moving parts to this energy. First, we have the Sun at 24 conjunct Mercury at 26 Aquarius. This is a super interesting opposition, especially at this moment in time. I know we've talked so much about Aquarian energy in relation to the long-term Pluto transit, but here we're dealing with personal planets, so that energy is a little more nuanced. I personally find Aquarius energy to be an interesting balance of non-attachment, but in the context of community and social engagement. It's like deeply wanting to help and be of service to everyone, but without becoming entangled in the drama and emotions. Remember, Aquarius is air energy. Air is free flowing. At the Venus degree of Aquarius, everyone under the sky is essentially going to need a lot of air and space. And wow, have I been feeling that lately. I'm not one to overly follow the news. As a South Node Aquarian, I don't buy into politics easily. I remain fairly non-attached to collective beliefs and focus more on what personally resonates with me. And I think that's a major lesson of this full moon, especially with the Mercury involvement. Because there's lots of information and news and social media with everyone's opinion on the state of the US and Trump and Musk and the chaos that's ensuing in Washington and the Middle East and China and beyond. And wow, all of this can drive even the strongest of nervous systems into heavy dysregulation. And that's okay, because life isn't about avoiding dysregulation. It's about the techniques we use to bring ourselves back into a ventral state, consciously choosing to find ourselves within the chaos. Remember, guys, this is literally what we have been training for. Because when you take the overflow of information and communication happening at light speed in Aquarius, at the Saturn degree, it's a reminder to stay committed to remaining non-attached to all the noise. Because, well, everything can feel like noise right now. Literally, the vibe feels like everyone is yelling all at once. And really, with that kind of overstimulation, it's no wonder we can't seem to collectively organize and get things done and find each other and move in more meaningful ways. At the emotional second degree of Aquarius, this is what Pluto Aquarius energy feels like as it starts to dig in and really illuminate the problems that we're solving for the next 20 years. So this opposition with the full moon Leo, among several other placements in the chart, is kicking up a lot of emotions. To me, it can feel like a tug of war is happening both internally and projecting out into the wide world. It's like a voice screaming that someone needs to lead because we're all so far apart from each other and divided to the point that we're gravely disempowered. For Mars retrograde in Cancer, that feels like helpless sadness. And for Venus in shadow in Aries, that may be trapped anger that we're feeling reactive about. So while this energy does want us to see the problem, we don't want to fall into those feelings and live there. What we want to do is reach to balance these energies of the opposition by placing our focus on the highest frequencies that they offer. So how do we do that? We can look at the general themes of this balance on the Leo-Aquarius axis because there are a lot of valuable lessons to be had. As mentioned a few times, I'm extra accustomed to the balancing act of these themes since my natal nodes are on this axis. So Leo holds creativity while Aquarius can be more intellectually based. One thing I've definitely noticed in this first Aquarius season of Pluto Aquarius is that I'm a fucking genius. Just kidding. Well, sort of. What I mean is, my ability to process information is happening at quantum lightning speeds. Things that used to take me hours to figure out now take minutes. I do feel some of that is linked to advances in tech, which are also housed in Aquarius energy. So as an air sign specifically, that combination has really broadened my personal abilities to find new solutions and, generally speaking, figure things out way quicker than what I'm used to. And it's pretty validating and awesome, to be honest. Meanwhile, on the Leo side of the chart, the answers to a noisy conjunction of Sun and Mercury in Aquarius can be to dive into our creative outlets. With Leo in the mix, though, it's important to focus on creation for the sake of enjoyment, releasing the need and desire for external validation. Now, I learned, and I mean really learned that the hard way this week, as a project that I poured my heart into that started out as pure expression blew up in my face a bit when I tried to monetize it. Ultimately, what I think this balance is trying to offer us is the purity of doing things you love as the medicine to pull you out of the fray and keep you non-attached to the world's circumstances. Because remember, we're still coming out of Pluto Capricorn. The fall of control is imminent and it's already happening. I mean, in the US, we are literally seeing control systems being out of control and wilding out. In some ways, there's a lawlessness to it all that feels very Aquarian in nature. It can almost feel like nothing matters anymore. There's like a nihilistic edge to it. The Constitution, international diplomacy, Congress, the Supreme Court, religion, none of it will hold up. And we're watching the implosion in real time. As hard as it can be to find your inner peace during it all, Mercury and Sun don't want us to get caught up in what's already dying. Now, to be clear, that doesn't mean we hide or fall into complacency. It's not time for that either. This particular combo of energies is teaching us the balance of detachment from our emotions while still fighting for equality, especially on behalf of those who are disenfranchised by the world. And real talk, unless you're in the 1%, and you probably wouldn't be watching me right now, you are on some level being disenfranchised whether or not you want to consciously see it. So please remember, this is Aquarian energy, ruled by Uranus. There is bigger picture, future forward vision at play here that we absolutely cannot see from our vantage point. So we can get bogged down in fear, which is definitely related to the South Node Virgo tendencies, or we can consciously do our part to hold onto the frequencies of Venus and Sun-ruled Leo. Our peace, beauty, balance, harmony, and flow, they come from within. They're in that deep connection with our hearts and our inner child. They have never, nor will ever, come from control systems. So let the toddlers go ahead and dismantle the broken system anyway. Let go of holding on to ancient documents and agendas that were sold to you as safety. And reach into your own heart, your creativity, and your problem-solving capabilities for both solutions and aligned relief. Now, when I say we don't know what's coming, this chart really fucking means it. Because not only are we dealing with Uranian energy with the Aquarian placements, but the actual opposition forms a T-square with Uranus now direct in Taurus. So our quest to find balance between heart and intellect, noise and leadership, empowered protection from being owned by those in power who believe that they have more value than others. It's putting pressure on Uranus, the planet of unexpected transformation, in the sign of Taurus, Venus-ruled quality of life. Uranus is all about transformation through facing situations that are outside of our comfort zone. So, well, if everything in life, from personal to collective, is making you uncomfortable, well, good. It's right on time. Our quality of life is too low. We should be out here eating fruit and making art and loving each other, not worrying about credit scores, living wages, and choosing between healthcare or rent, stepping on each other to rise high enough in the ranks so we can pretend we're truly free. Is that the life you really want? Uranus energy is all about autonomy. So whatever it shows you that makes you feel the most uncomfortable under this full moon is probably exactly what's holding you back. But the good news is it's ripe for transformation. And because it's a full moon and it's at the Mercury degree, it's probably going to involve feelings, actions, and using your voice to create and connect deeper with the balance, flow, and peace that always exists within us. Now for me, Uranus is sitting right in between my Chiron ancient wounding and my Mars, both in my Taurus 7th house and in range of my natal Uranus opposition. In English, that means that for the last year or more, I keep getting very triggered around my personal safety and autonomy. Not gonna lie, it hasn't been pleasant. And without getting too much off topic, it's been a balance of internal and external challenges. Because yes, a lot of things in the world at large don't feel safe right now, but I can't personally control that. But it's also forcing me to look at all the things that I do and decisions that I make that create dysfunction, dysregulation, and lack of safety within me, myself, and the life I want to create. That includes a lot of things like self-abandonment, codependency, misaligned decision-making, lots of ways that I contribute to creating a life opposite of what I actually want to receive. You can't manifest like that. And well, both Mars and Venus have simply had enough of it. Now guys, I'm not gonna lie, it's taking me years to unravel that within my life and be conscious of it. Although this work started long before I knew how to read a chart, unraveling the guidance of my natal chart has been such an enlightening and empowering process. It's part of the lessons of my North Node Leo to be of heart-based service and help others save some time and pain on their journeys. Cracking the code on your chart can arm you with a wealth of guidance and information so you can better align with your life choices too. Your birth chart is literally just a map of energies. It won't do the work for you, but it can show you where your energy and focus will create the most meaningful and aligned result. And the reading of your chart against the current energies can help you unravel patterns and validate experiences in really empowering ways that allow you to take more aligned steps towards the life you want to receive. That's really the basis of this energy. What do you want to receive? How do you want to feel? And how can you align your energy with that? So please reach out. Book a live session, get a written or video reading, call me, text me, show up in my dreams, beam me telepathically. Basically, I'm here to help, so let's get in touch. Now, digging further into this chart, we can now unlock how that T-square feeds into the bigger picture energies. We have Uranus in a grand trine with Pluto in the south node. So that corner of the trine, although challenged by the T-square with the full moon, it's reminding us that all of this is in support of something bigger than us. Now, we've discussed Uranus a lot, and I really don't shut up about Pluto Aquarius, but I'm personally still adjusting to the south node Virgo energies. Virgo is a Mercury-ruled sign that loves to use information for problem solving. It likes organization. When things are chaotic or we don't have enough information or all the information seems scattered and polarizing, Virgo gets spicy anxiety. When the South Node is there, we can be prone to feeling like all we can see is the problems and not the solutions. And well, right now that might be true, but the highest frequency of Virgo wants us to use our personal power of presence and embodiment to find solutions and ease the tension. Similar to what we were talking about in the Leo Aquarius opposition, there's opportunity here to find the calm inside of us. And that's exactly what the higher frequency of Virgo is here to teach us. At 27 degrees, we're in Mars territory, so there's action to be taken here. Now, I personally see that action as self-regulation and basically creating your own safety no matter what. Because a lot of what's going on in the world right now is meant to dysregulate us and take away our personal power through antiquated divide and conquer tactics. But we're trining Uranus and Pluto in Aquarius here. That's rebel energy. Its goal is to do things differently and shake things up in support of the collective good. And the quest for a greater collective quality of life first starts within each of us by reaching for our personal autonomy. So when you put all of that together, the flow of this trine teaches us that acting in alignment with our sovereignty and eventual regulation in the face of chaos created to separate us, that in itself is a courageous act of rebellion. So as I'm saying this, I feel called to make it as relatable as possible. And I feel like that's a tall order when there are people in the US and beyond and all over the world who really don't have access to the safety of outer personal autonomy at the moment. So what do we do about that, and how does this math apply to them too? Well, some of that involves those of us that are blessed with the freedom of using our voices. But I know that can feel like a David and Goliath battle right now. Without unity, individualized voices feel weaker. With Mars in Cancer, our vulnerabilities are really showing, and Venus in Aries is pissed about it. So while I don't pretend to have all the answers to the world's problems, I do think the chart continues to offer guidance that holds true despite the truly difficult situations occurring in the wide world. The nodes are always in perfect opposition with each other. Our goals are always to take the comfort of what we know and have mastered in the South Node and use it to learn and expand the growth objectives of the North Node. And because of the South Node's placement in the Grand Trine, it forms a kite that points us right to North Node 27 conjunct Neptune 28 Pisces. So off the bat, there is transformation and healing that we can't see taking place in the present moment. It's bigger than us, and it's the collective energy story that we're all under. So it applies to every single conscious being on Earth. With the North Node 27 Pisces, there's action to be taken around healing our trust in the process that's at play. Oof, that one is a doozy. Imagine you're being deported from the only home you've ever known, or being denied life-saving medical care, or you're a hostage in a cave and I'm sitting here asking you to trust the bigger picture. You would emphatically tell me to go fuck myself. So if you have the privilege of sitting here watching this video right now, please know that I'm not blind or deaf to the plights of human tragedy going on around us. However, we are all being asked to apply healthy detachment and focus on what we can impact, even if that's only our state of mind or our nervous system. Like the story I told last week about how almost dying during childbirth led me down a path of healing that I could never have foreseen. The math here continues to point us in that direction. And with North Node Pisces, those of us who are safe in the present moment, well, we have choices. We can call empath and drown in our sorrows for humanity. And that's a very real feeling. But our feelings inform our energy. They don't control our actions. That's a conscious choice. So what do? We use our voices. We join together and volunteer in community with others for greater causes bigger than us to align us with what we want to receive. We regulate our nervous system so we can fight for those who can't. Those are action-based choices. Those are the baby steps that will bring us back into unity. While compassion and empathy are important parts of the scenario because they teach us what to fight for, Drowning in it because we haven't faced our own vulnerabilities, well, that doesn't help anyone. It's not the time for self-blame. It's not the time to get caught up in the emotion of it. Martyring yourself in the name of empathy for the plight of others does nothing to fix the situation. Now, Cancer, I'm definitely looking at you right now, but we are all under the same sky. So instead, we can use the inherent feels of collective disempowerment to fuel our actions and fight towards collective change. And that's why the healing portal presented in Neptune conjunct North Node is so critically important. I mean, if you have found my little corner of the internet here and have made it the 20 plus minutes into this video, I would think you've been using the recent energies to face yourself and clear out blocks to trusting a process that's bigger than you. It may not be easy, but resisting will only make it worse because this is what we're being called to do. Neptune is the damn ruler of Pisces. We are nearing the end of a 165-year cycle of healing. We are being asked to trust the transcendence process of the opening of consciousness. Damn right that's going to feel hugely uncomfortable, because the energy of Neptune is neither malefic nor benefic. It's neutral. Transcendence is neither here to help or hurt us. This placement is opening up realms of wisdom and inspiration that we can't fathom because no one on Earth right now has ever experienced it. This energy comes from the ideals of unconditional love and compassion. So I'm sorry, I don't know who needs to hear this, but governments and religions and structures that thrive on being highly conditional in how they protect and provide, there's no safety in there. That is a fear-driven game of vying for control and power, not love and definitely not unity. And man, look how much harm that causes. There are mass casualties there on every conceivable level. I can't even imagine the mental gymnastics it takes to justify that. So in this pocket of energy, the chart is pointing us towards the Neptune conjunct North Node during a full moon Leo. We are being asked to shed the habits that cloud our Aquarian vision. Escapism, addiction, avoidance, codependency, lack of boundaries, disillusionment. I doubt any single human right now can say that they have fully, without a doubt, transcended all of those in every single area of life. And more so, the ones most critical to be cleared are being highlighted for us individually in this full moon. It's an uncomfortable cheat code so that we can clear and let go of these coping mechanisms. Because we aren't meant to simply cope. The action we get to take is future forward, but it's also present and practical. Ultimately, we are here to bring in the era of integration, creative expression, healing, and visionary thinking to move us into the next cycle, where we build something collectively better for all of us. Think about that inner child energy that we spoke about earlier. Who wouldn't want to live in a world where that level of pure joy was the actual goal? Because coming up next month, right after that powerful Aries 9 degrees solar eclipse on March 29th, the very next day, Neptune ingresses into Aries and our feet are to the fire of a new transcendent healing cycle. Like we just experienced with Pluto, this year's will just be the first dip. Neptune will hover and retrograde back to Pisces later this year before early 2026, where it will settle back into Aries for its next 165-year cycle through the zodiac. So while I'm barely scraping by day to day, and I'm certainly not here to future trip the next 165 years of our existence, I do think there's value in looking at Venus. She has now moved into Aries, and the lineup of planets for this eclipse at the end of March has begun. The energy behind that eclipse is so ultra saturated on this line between Pisces, spirituality, and the end of the zodiac, and Aries, incarnated human in the beginning again. I mean, at the time of the eclipses, we will have 4 planets or luminaries in Aries and 4 in Pisces. That's a lot of saturation. I'm going to be on a cruise ship during that time. So that being said, it seems like the perfect time to check in on our Queen Venus now that she's in Aries. She will retrograde back into Pisces prior to the eclipse. But all that means is these lessons right now are extra important because she'll be repeating them again in her retrograde cycle and then a third time when she moves direct again. So Venus is a lover, not a fighter. Aries is a Mars-ruled sign. Venus is in detriment here and she doesn't like it. But there are many valuable lessons for her to learn. Venus retrograde in Aries immediately follows Mars retrograde in the mother sign of Cancer. This is showing us a level of discomfort at facing challenging aspects of ourselves. Aries is about more than just warrior energy. It's also where passion, bravery, empowerment, and protective energies live. It's a fiery, action-based sign that makes things happen, sometimes out of impatience and reactivity. Basically, when Venus is in Aries, she gets a first-hand look at how Mars operates from the inside out. This can have two results, which probably occur at the same time depending on how they are applied. When unconsciously triggered, there can definitely be some anger, sadness, and defensiveness around all the things that are out of balance in the world. I think the collective feminine as a whole right now is really mad and sad and resentful that we're not being protected by the masculine. It's way out of our natural balance. At 5 degrees, there's a passion about our voices being heard and the value of the information we provide, especially as it pertains to things like our deep intuitive connection to spirituality itself. If we look back in the last few generations of recent history, the masculine has used this warrior energy in an ego-driven way to amass wealth and power and build structure like government and religion. Although parts of that have been malefic and have had a varying amount of results, it sure as hell has caused a lot of harm, but this energy really comes from an attempt at creating safety to make up for a lack of trust. However, when the feminine energy is shared by way of Libra in peaceful, more harmonious ways, it's often shunned and ignored, attacked, labeled a cult, or even a cult. Even what we're doing here right now in this very conversation is often looked upon as nonsense, a story, a silly little unreasonable belief that's not backed by science. And honestly, I find that all kind of wild because we know that there are planets with mass and gravity larger than ours in the sky, very close to us. There is both ancient and scientific proof that the gravitational pull of the moon has impact on the largest bodies of water on our planet. If the moon can move the ocean, what kind of mental gymnastics does it take to convince yourself that it can't move the 60% of our tiny bodies that are made of water? Furthermore, the recent findings of the Hubble tension are scientifically proving that the universe is expanding at a rate faster than what had been previously calculated. One of the theories behind that is that the potential universal expansion rate might be uneven, with the differential based on the proximity to large fields of gravity. In that case, could the exotic properties of gravity be a level of sentient consciousness? If that is the case, perhaps we have a scientific case for astrology too. Because the theory of evolutionary astrology isn't that the planets and stars control us. That's just what people say who are too scared to consider the actual reality, that the energy of the planets may actually impact our consciousness. Nobody wants to address that because of the bearing that scientific proof may have on the business of religion and the structure of society, especially capitalism. While Pluto transits Aquarius, expect a peel back of the layers of the true nature of our existence. A lot of what people think keeps them safe will be questioned and disproven. And well, I have a lot of compassion and empathy for that. It's really uncomfortable, and a lot of people just aren't ready to face it or deal with it. They want to keep believing in their books about sky daddies and notably lack of sky mommies. So anyway, back to our sky girl Venus here. I think part of what she's learning is compassion for why the masculine acts this way. Now, before you hardcore cringe or turn me off entirely, give me a minute to explain. Because let's be real, ladies, feminine compassion for the plight of the masculine is in very short supply right now, and for very valid reasons. If anything, the Venus-Aries energy just exacerbates that resent. Most of us feel like we've given so much. We've been looted by the masculine for lifetimes, and now men aren't even holding up their most basic, natural end of the deal to honor us and keep us safe. So when I say we're here to learn compassion for the masculine, I don't mean in a way that's motherly. It's not martyrdom. That would be Libra, where South Node just moved out of, or Cancer, where Mars is currently relearning his retrograde lessons about how to care for himself and be a courageous protector of the feminine. What I mean here is, if the feminine is getting a first-hand lesson in personal sovereignty that can inform us on why the masculine has veered so far off course. The purpose of this is to make different choices and keep us accountable for what does and doesn't work. Because I think the compassion has to come from some level of understanding and information. Otherwise, the feminine just reacts impulsively and stays mad and never gets to tap into the true purpose of her empowerment, which are the Venus-ruled ideals of justice, peace, balance, unity, and harmony. If we skip over feeling what needs to be felt and dive into misdirected rebellion, we are lacking compassion and simply following the same path that the masculine led us through to get here in the first place. Instead, we get the choice to spend our Venus and Aries time learning how to align with that which we wish to receive back from the world. Do you want to receive anger, sadness, frustration, resentment? Or are those all valid feelings but also reactions? The higher octave of this lesson is to obtain information, find our courage, balance our sovereignty without giving ourselves away, reclaim our passion and the warrior energy, but on behalf of the healing goddess energy, not in the same way that masculine has contorted it into a pissing contest. We know this because Venus is sextile Jupiter now direct at 11 Gemini, forming a minor grand trine with Pluto Aquarius. Jupiter is our big benefic planet, and it works actively with Venus here as she moves through this phase of detriment. At 11 degrees Gemini, a moon degree, there's information to be explored and entangled within our emotions. Our bodies and the universe are communicating with us here. And although Gemini energy is fast-moving, and Aries energy is very reactive, it behooves us to take a moment, slow down, and examine what we're being shown, especially if you're deeply integrating your feminine energies. Because if you're sad or mad or resentful or feeling powerless or uninspired, there's information in those emotions. It doesn't have to dictate what you do in the present moment, but rather it can inform your vision for what needs to change. Because it's from that perspective that feminine reclaims her sovereignty in a more whole and healed way. Not that we won't make mistakes, ebb and flow along the way, but we're evolving the consciousness of the feminine here within Aries, our lived human experience. Specifically so that we don't continue partaking in hijacked, trauma-driven, codependent patterns. Our participation in those cycles and our unconsciousness to it is what kept us from owning our real power, getting our shit together, and breaking free from the outdated relationship paradigms that have disempowered us in the first place. That energy simply has no place in our future forward vision. It's old paradigm. And it's not just me saying that to be fun and edgy and feminist. It's Pluto saying it right here in this chart. So while we're still a touch too far from eclipse season for me to speculate on exactly how it may unfold as the Aries and Pisces energy line builds, there are some common themes here that we can expect to work with. Masculine-feminine balance will continue to be highlighted, especially as Mars and Venus square off over the next week, and all the way through Mars direct and Venus beginning her retrograde cycle on March 1st. Themes of empowerment, disempowerment, and the interplay between trust, tolerance, and passionate action will continue to build. The balance of spirituality and how we embody that to build a world that is more childlike, playful, joyful, and beautiful, and enjoyable for everyone. And not to be the bearer of bad news, guys, but I don't see the sadness factor lifting anytime soon. Not with all this Pisces energy. But if we bring together the scattering of themes in this chart in one cohesive way, think about that kite. We can hold on to the silver lining of Neptune conjunct North Node in Pisces and the Grand Trine to give us some reins to this energy. Right now, in the present moment, we are actively engaged in a healing process that we simply can't understand or see from our vantage point. It is our job to continue to trust in that, regardless of the outside chaos and circumstances. From chaos comes clarity. The chart says so. But we're not all the way through it yet. I know it's unfair. I know we don't like it. Venus, Queen of Justice, really doesn't like it. But I can't move the planets. What Venus can help us with here in Aries, if we are brave enough to reach for it, is flow. So instead of resisting, we're better off putting our energies into our presence with it and actively moving blocks out of the way as they present themselves. Frogger style. Use this pocket to consciously and precisely change what you can. Move through any blocks that keep you from connecting with the depth of your heart and acting in the deepest protection of the inner child joy. Among many techniques, we can move through it by enacting healthy detachment, grounding, coping skills, and nervous system regulation. These techniques are always available to us within our sovereign autonomy, no matter what. And the good news about Venus and Aries, there is unlimited access to passion. Just make sure to utilize all the information available to you to make sure that the passion that you're following is truly heart led and not masquerading as trauma patterns like what happened with me. The purity of heart is not about trying to fill the void of unprocessed emotions and parts of yourself. So that's the instructions of this moon. Heart-led passion by way of frequency alignment. You can do it. You can face anything. So that we may face it together. I believe in you, so
let it flow, 'cause it won't stop.
thank you so much for joining me on Crack the Code and trusting my guidance. It is part of the mission of my North Node to follow my bliss as a heart-led leader and be of service to others through channeling the guidance of the charts as we walk through this expanse of space and time. I have some big visions to bring to life in 2025 and beyond. Subscribe to my channel here on YouTube or follow me on Instagram at SarahLynn to be the first to find out about new offerings. To book one-on-one readings, written or video chart analysis, comment on either channel or send a DM to get in touch. I'm so grateful for your support and presence, and I can't wait to connect further and crack the code on the guidance of your own chart. Listen to your heart, follow your bliss, and let it flow, because it won't stop.